Welcome to EFT MBA, Mastering Business Acumen with the help of EFT business experts. Learn the marketing, mindset, and skill set you need to create the EFT coaching practice of your dreams. Visit www.eftmba.com for more information. And now, here's the EFT training team that embodies the art and science of EFT. Alina Frank and Dr. Craig Weiner.
Well, welcome back, everybody. We have just been getting so much wonderful feedback about people learning from and enjoying these shows. I think we're just going to keep doing them. So this is Dr. Craig Weiner along with Alina Frank, my partner, business partner, life partner, and we are here for MBA for EFT coaches. That is the art and science of making money and changing the world, or EFT Mastering Business Acumen. And we're really here dedicating our time and energy to be able to support the EFT coaches in the world to really make a difference in the world and their community and to thrive while doing it. Why not have both? So today's conversation and topic is creating a persuasive EFT presentation. So how many of you are doing EFT, have a practice, but are trying to expand your practice, trying to impact your community, trying to share the work that you're doing in changing people's lives with the community that you live in or work in, and find yourself with an opportunity given to you or trying to create an opportunity to be able to present EFT publicly? So that's what we're talking about today. Now, we can all go out and give information, but information alone doesn't change anything. So we have to look at how do we create a presentation that not only informs, but inspires, transforms, brings people to some action, whether it's learning EFT, doing EFT with you, whatever. So what I just want to do as a little teaser is today's program is not about getting EFT presentations. That's going to be the topic of another show. This is going to begin with the assumption that you've already got one. Somebody just contacted you and said, can you give a talk to our weight loss group? Can you please talk about what you do? We've got a sports group that's looking for information to be able to really excel. We've got, let's just say, another group that's looking for, it's an arthritis support group that's looking for help, and they heard that you helped with chronic pain. So we're going to assume that you've already got potential presentations scheduled. So what I want to say first, and back up for just a second, is you can give a presentation to anybody, to any group at all. But what I want to say is, and Alina, I know you're going to back me up on this one, is the most effective way of your time and energy of giving an EFT presentation is to a group that's interested in your niche or specialty, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you can give it to any group and still feel like you're, affecting people, but I promise you're going to have the greatest turnout, you're going to have the greatest feedback, you're going to be most effective if you're presenting to a group that's interested in the topic that you specialize with, that you have some authority in. So that's where you're always going to want to create those talks, but opportunities are going to come from anywhere, and you don't want to say no to those, or if you don't, then we're going to move forward. So given that was said, what we want to do is just begin from the very beginning. So somebody contacted you. They heard about you, or maybe they're a client. Whatever that is, you want to establish really good rapport with the person that is responsible for the group, that's going to communicate with that group or that center or that community group or that church group or that a Rotary or Seroptimus, a Business Leads Club, whatever that is. You want to make sure that you develop the kind of rapport that they feel like they have a sense of who you are, because they're the ones that are going to be going back to their group and communicating, yeah, you should be here for that talk. Oh, my God, I met Alina, and she was just fabulous, and she's exciting, and she's interesting, and, God, she's just bubbly, and she's got energy, and right? Anyway, so you want to be able to create that connection so they feel that about you, because you want them to help you fill. And they have got the authority of the group that people trust them already. There's a connection. So you want to establish that rapport, and that's important. In establishing some authority, that's one way. Another way is if it's enough in advance then you can go ahead and offer, would you like me to write an article for your newsletter for, the talk that's coming up in 2 months, or maybe you have a blog or something you put out to your membership. I'd be happy to write something. And that's another way to gain credibility and also to be able to increase the numbers that are going to show up at the talk. So that was another idea. When you establish rapport with that key person, you want to also see, can they be there to introduce you, which is a very important piece, and it really helps to establish credibility as well. So my recommendation, and Alina's as well, is that when you are introduced, provide them with some information for an introduction. Number one, they'll appreciate that you did that work, and number two is you're not going to be surprised by when they Google you or they look you up what information they're going to think is important that you want to be shared. You want to provide the information that's most important and most relevant. So being able to put together a short and not too lengthy introductory bio kind of paragraph is really helpful, and it helps for you to be able to create the information that you want most delivered. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go through step by step. So you've gotten the opportunity to give a public presentation on EFT. You've met the person
wait.
that...
Can I interrupt you?
Anytime.
So, one of the things that we really strive for is to get the maximum results with the least effort. And
right.
So I want to just kind of fine-tune what you said about
Please.
creating presentations that are for EFT.
Okay.
So what we really would like for you to do is to create those opportunities that will give you the biggest return and where you will have the most persuasion to have your group contact you afterwards, is to not necessarily lead with the EFT. And your marketing material should reflect that. I just put out a bunch of flyers from my past talks on the EFT MBA program for students to look over. And the ones that I had comments along the side. This is a flyer that failed. Here's a flyer that did well. And over and over again, throughout the last 10 years, I get confirmation, and all the business experts will agree, that do not lead with your tools. EFT is your tool. It might be what you spend 80% of the time talking about. But if you want people in the door, if you want to open doors, and if you want people to start buying your services, then leave that kind of jargon out of your material.
It is, and I think people aren't out there looking for an EFT practitioner. What they're out there for is looking for relief from their problem or help with what they're struggling with. And if they feel you trying to sell your services, it's like a big keep away sign.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So be careful about if you're doing some of the promotion, and if it's, both the group is promoting you and you're doing you, be careful in the marketing materials that you're making sure, just like Alina said, to be focusing on the problem and what you're talking about, not the tool. Okay?
Right.
EFT talk, come Friday night. Guess how many people are going to be there? Right?
Well, I can tell you how many. Yeah, I can tell you how many people showed up at my first EFT presentation 10 years ago.
How many?
Exactly 2. The owner of the place where I was speaking, and 1 person, and me. So it was interesting, and I have to say, another thing that we share in the EFT MBA program is the mindset. I think that the mindset, my belief system, and all of that had very much to do with how many people showed up in that first one. But it was really, I look at how I marketed it and how I spoke about it, and the flyers that I used, and I can look back now and say that it was all about this problem that many EFT coaches have, which is the inability to speak about defining their niche and really being really keyed into what problems you're going to be addressing during a talk instead of the tool that you're going to use.
Yep. It's true. I know that when I'm going to a lecture or presentation that has something to do with something I'm working on, I want to know how this person really knows about what I'm interested in. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm not interested in what they're interested in. I'm interested in how they're interested and involved and have expertise and authority in what I'm interested in.
Right.
Which is my problem. It is all about me. I mean, let's face it, it's all about me. And people that are all about them are coming to see you, and they want to know how you can help them. And if it's something they don't know about, they can't relate to it.
Right.
So thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to go ahead and pass it on to you. So once you actually get to that room and you get introduced, God, what do you do?
Yeah. Well, I would say even before you go into the room for your to do your actual presentation, I think it's very helpful for you to go ahead of time to look at the space. There are certain things that you want to check out about the energy of the room. We have a lot of tips, but here's just one really juicy one that I've used over and over again. If you can arrange the chairs so that there's no gap in the middle, energetically you're standing there and you want to be as powerful as possible and connecting with everyone and making eye contact. And if there is a gap in like an aisle in the middle of the seating, it's a void, and it creates an energetic void. So go in there and suggest that they, close up that gap. You can have 2 aisles and have smaller or less wide rows if need be. But you definitely do not want, if you can at all avoid it, you do not want a big gaping center aisle if you're giving a presentation. So go get yourself comfortable with the space. Check it out. Notice where you're going to be standing and where you're going to set up if you have some different things that you need to set up. So and maybe chairs in the front for a demo and those sorts of things. It's really good, and your comfort level will really grow if you check out the space ahead of time.
Yeah, it's checking out the space ahead of time. Also, there's don't forget the technical aspects to make sure that they have everything that you need. Yes.
And and we're going to get into a little bit of that shortly about using technology.
Yep.
All right. So after you've been introduced, if you can have that person that invited you there introduce you, and you've made a connection with that person, like Craig said, they're going to be much more personal in what they say about you. Now, after your introduction, one of the most effective and powerful things that you can do is to share your personal healing journey. And again, having researched the group, knowing what the group is about, and having this be really targeting what it is that they are there to hear and learn, then you're going to share one of your stories, if it's directly related to what that group is there to hear, or you're going to share one of your client stories, of course, changing names and remaining keeping that confidentiality with your about your client. So sharing a story does a few things, and the research shows that when somebody is introduced, a stranger is introduced in any environment, the amygdala is back there on high alert. Is this person safe? Are they going to yell at me? Are they going to pick on me and ask me to stand up and do something that I'm going to be totally embarrassed to do? So they are waiting and watching in those first few moments to see if you are safe. And the safest thing, the way to build that rapport and gain safety and a feeling of, oh, I like this person, is to share a story. We've been sharing stories since way back in Stone Age times, when we would just sit around a fire and share story. And so that immediately puts everyone at ease. So again, it's a wonderful thing to do. Start with a story. In fact, Craig and I have seen people like Greg Braden over the years. We've seen Rupert Sheldrake talk. We've seen Joe Dispenza, speak. And these are powerful speakers. But all these years later, if you ask me, like, what did Joe Dispenza share in his Seattle conference, the facts and the figures and the tools and the techniques totally go out the window. What I remember is the story about his daughter and the shopping spree. Right, Craig?
Right.
It's what people remember. Okay. Another reason why you are doing this, I want to say, because some of you may be thinking, why even do this? It's the age of technology. The same thing happens for when someone goes and visits you on a website. You've got to exert a tremendous amount of energy gaining their trust because they don't know you from Adam. And immediately you have that opportunity to gain their trust if you meet them live. So live events, live presentations are an absolutely wonderful way to build your practice. And of course, if you're scared, that's something to tap on. If you have issues around public speaking, then absolutely that's something that you need to conquer and to work on through tapping on yourself or with someone else. Okay.
I just want to add one piece with that, is that establishing that rapport and trust, especially with something when you start talking about EFT that, depending on your audience, might be a little skeptical or woo-woo. It's always okay. You establish trust and rapport with saying, you know what, I know this might look a little weird to you. I know this might, in other words, you meet people where they are rather than trying to be different. And when you meet them, it establishes an immediate, he understands what I'm feeling and thinking. She understands that. She gets it. And now I can take the next step with them. So that establishment of that trust early on in a presentation is really important. So I just wanted to add that piece.
Yep. Okay, another thing to do is to consider doing a demo. And there are risks and there are benefits to doing demos. And we are not going to share we will share that at a later time because I really want to cover some other things, but there is an art and a science to picking the right demo and what to do in those situations. So we will save that for another show. If you supply somebody with a handout, please make sure that you do a few things. One, that the language on that handout is exactly verbatim, same words as you're using during your presentation. Because if you have handouts and people are looking and they see that you've mentioned something and it says something completely different on your handout, or you don't use the same exact words, a confused mind doesn't buy. They're going to be, again, you just lost that rapport with them. So everything that you have in your handout, make sure that it's something that you are covering. Also, make sure that your handout has your contact information at the bottom. The footer or header, it's going to have your contact information. Another thing that you want to do with the handout is if you can have questions or fill in the blanks or exercises that you're going to be leading them through, or even just one exercise that you're leading them through during your presentation, and they write on that paper, the research has shown that if someone writes something on a piece of paper, they're less likely to toss it out. So have that in mind when you create your handout. All right, going on, let's see. I wanted to go over a few things about PowerPoints, because we do an annual conference here, the Northwest Tappers Gathering, and it's a wonderful platform that we offer to up-and-coming EFT practitioners who haven't had an opportunity to speak in a large group. And it's a great thing. And one of the things that I ask the presenter to really give some time to think about is, do they want to use a PowerPoint or not? So I ask them to really think about it, because Number one, if you don't know the technology intimately, then forget it. There's nothing worse at the beginning your presentation with a technical snafu, having set the expectation of a professional presentation that you're now unable to follow through with. And it starts to
happens.
I know. It
I hate that. I've seen it and done it. Yep.
Yeah. It automatically lowers their level of both expectation and that you are an authority. It's a big hurdle. So leave it out. There's absolutely no reason for you to have it. It's not proven to be more effective. In fact, there was a great presentation that was out there being bandied about a few years ago called PowerPoint is pointless. It's true unless you're really good with the technology and you know your projector and you know the connection with your computer is working and you have everything ready to go and you know what to do if there's a problem and you can go through all the steps of what to do if there's a problem. Leave it out. Just leave it out. People want to connect with you. They want to feel your presence in the room, and energetically you're at a disadvantage when you're using some of the technology. And number two, your presentation is not your slides. Your presentation is not your slides. Your slides should be sort of like the icing on the cake to emphasize a point that you make with an image or a few bullet points. Keep the text to a bare minimum, and don't do one of the deadly sins of PowerPoint. Do not turn your back on the audience, and do not read the slide. So if you're going to be doing those things, if you have some material that you want to cover, that you want to accentuate by having it on the PowerPoint slide as well, then make it brief, make it bullet points, keep it short and sweet, and you have some kind of card in front of you so that you know that you will not be turning around and reading it from the front of the room. You're going to break rapport otherwise. I think that's all I want to say on PowerPoint. Craig, I'll hand it back to you with some of the research.
Great. Well, what I want to talk about a few fun things, but that will help you in designing and putting together your presentation. That's very valid. One of my favorite, I have a lot of favorite books. That's a whole other topic, but one of them is John Medina's work called Brain Rules. And we're going to put into play here Brain Rule number 4. And basically that's the idea that when being provided information, an audience will precipitously lose attention after 10 minutes. Now, any of you that remember your college, postgraduate, or whenever you've been taking classes, that most people are able to hold on to that attention for 10 minutes, and it starts to dip after that. So what he recommends strongly and implements, and I've seen him speak and I've used it myself and I know, is when you're preparing, let's just say an hour presentation, you think of it in 10-minute segments. So after 9 minutes and 55 seconds or so, you're going to have to do something that's going to re-engage and cause them to re-sign a contract to say, you know what, you've got my attention now for 10 more minutes. And there's going to need to be some sort of shift change around that 10-minute time or so to be able to do that. Now, what kind of things are really helpful? Well, number one, what we know is to re-engage the listener, we need to have some sort of evocation of emotion. And whether we're using something that's humorous to evoke laughter, whether we're using a story to move or inspire them, or surprise them, or shock them, or whether we do some sort of physical movement, whether we break it into an experience in some way that we're engaging them in a different way, we have to continually re-engage and sign a new contract every 10 minutes. So when you're preparing a presentation, think about how you're going to do that. Now, another piece that's important and that really ties very well together with that is we know that memory, and remember things is enhanced by creating associations between concepts. A best way to be able to provide some information with details is that we give the overarching picture first, and then we give details to fill in the holes. So if you want to make let's just say in an hour, 6 points that you want to make regarding your topic and regarding EFT, that a good way to do that is to think about what are the 6 big points that I want to make sure that they come away with having a sense of. Then I fill in details about that and story and allegory and information or research or whatever those pieces are. I renegotiate. At that 10-minute, I bring in something that evokes emotion, and then I present another big picture. This is what I'm going to go over with you now. And people's brains work with that hierarchy very well. I think you'll notice it yourself when you listen, whether it be to a lecture or presentation, that I want to have a sense, my brain wants to know where are we going next. And if you tell me where we're going next, I can relax back a little bit and gather that information more, as opposed to that doesn't go with this and this doesn't go with that. Where's he going next? So that's a really helpful 2 points as far as the 10-minute segments and creating the overarching concept and then filling in the details that I wanted to go over. Now, one other thing before I hand it back to you, Alina, is personally I like bridging 2 worlds here. One is, for a public presentation, I want to be able to kind of endear, connect, so people feel like they know me. So I want to both bridge the personal, for example, with story, like Alina was talking about, is a great way to do that, especially if it creates, I don't want to say a level of vulnerability, authenticity, something that's maybe challenging to share. God, this was something I was really embarrassed about. People become connected when you show something like that. Just think for yourself. And on the other hand, they also want validation. So you also want to let them know about some aspect of the science or research without being able to go too far in that direction. And it might just be, you know what, there's a lot of research here, and I'm not going to go over it with you today, but you know what, over there on the side, I've got a book full of it. I've got a website that's full of resources with regard to journal articles, etc. And just even the taste that they know that it's there helps to satiate that need to feel that they're not being taken, that you're not just selling something. And so that balance between the personal and the scientific or research, I think, is a really great blend. But there are some other things that I know Alina wants to go over, too, before we close up, that also have to do with buy-in. In other words, to give a presentation and, in a sense, to persuade, to invoke steps that they're going to take. There's some key elements with that, and I'll hand that back over to you, Alina, for that.
Okay. So what the last bit of information that we want to give you is there is a great book out there that many people have been using. It was uncovered for telemarketing, but nowadays it's really used for everything, every aspect of sales, from used car sales to fundraising, and that is called The Psychology of Persuasion. And there are 3 steps to this, and this is just like how do we know that people buy? And people buy when 3 things are in place. One is reciprocity. Reciprocity is the obligation to give when you receive from a mutual exchange. So if you're trying to persuade somebody to join, are you really ensuring, you're not really ensuring reciprocity. If you are giving them something of value, if you are teaching something, if you're imparting really valuable information, then people will listen and say, wow, I feel the urge and almost the compulsion to want to buy from them, engage in some sort of way, use their services. So number 2 is authority. People follow credible and knowledgeable experts. So establishing your credibility is very important to do. Before the talk, establish credibility through your own website or through a blog or through an article. Authority speaks of you having worked with people with this particular problem. That's why we keep talking about how important it is to really cultivate your niche. If you have experienced a healing journey, like we said, about this particular problem, then that is an extremely powerful way to establish yourself as an authority. But you can also do that if you've worked with plenty of people that have that challenge. And 3 is liking. You've got to be likable. If you're just a talking head out there, you're not going to be liked. Again, another way to establish that somebody likes you is that story. We keep going back to the story. It puts your brain and your nervous system at ease. People, they lose their skepticism. They're always on the hunt these days for, is this a sales promotion? Because we're just so bombarded in our culture with sales pitches. So people liking you, hearing that you're human, having that connection. This also goes for reading your presentation from notes. How is someone going to get to know you if that's all you're doing? They don't have a sense of who you really are. They can't like you. You can't establish authority, and so it's really not going to meet two out of all three of these. You'll maybe get reciprocity. So that's it for the psychology of persuasion. And then at the end of your talk, we want to make sure that you have a call to action. What's next? So have something that you are going to be giving them, a discount of some sort to your next presentation. We never encourage you to lower your prices, but you can certainly give them a free gift like a report or an ebook or a link to a video, that sort of thing. This engages reciprocity, right? You can give them a free gift, and they will feel, again, that sort of obligation to go further. So it's another great thing to do at a presentation, a live presentation, is to gather email addresses, because still to this day, with all the other things that are out there, one of the most effective ways of getting people to your website and to buy your services is through establishing yourself through your newsletter. So have a sign-up sheet. Encourage people to sign up for your free newsletter, and that they get a free gift that way. Again, it could be an ebook, it could be a video, something else that you've created. It's very important. You do not ever want to walk into a presentation without having something else coming up. So have a teleclass that you're going to set up, or you've got another presentation a month later in another location, or you can say that you are starting a class. Those sorts of things. You need to design this so that there is a clear marketing funnel, and we will talk about marketing funnels in another call.
Right. So for people that are interested in finding out more about what we do, so this is the thing, it's free. And so what I would say is the best way to find out more about all the different things we're doing, whether it be the radio shows, the articles, the workshops and trainings. We're traveling around the country now between doing EFT and Matrix and our Money Mastery workshop coming up, for example, in New York City. You can just go to EFTtappingtraining.com and sign up for our monthly newsletter there. You can find us at EFT Tapping Training Workshops on Facebook. There are lots of ways to find out, but please share these radio shows. We love doing them. The EFT MBA program has so much more than this. So if you think this is a lot, there's a lot more there. But there's lots of ways to get lots of good stuff from us, and we hope you're enjoying the show. Anything you want to add before we sign off, Alina?
No, I just want to reiterate that a powerful live presentation is one of the most effective tools that you can have in your marketing strategy, and please use it. Absolutely use it.
Good. Okay.
All right.
We hope you enjoyed EFT MBA Radio. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Enjoy and keep on tapping.
You have been listening to EFT MBA with Alina Frank and Dr. Craig Weiner. To get your free report on the 5 secrets to create a rockin' EFT practice and to learn more about the EFT MBA program, visit www.EFTMBA.com.